Here's our casting parts for the Lubrisizer itself. The rest of the assembly will be done right here on the Lubrisizer. Yeah, I believe everything else can be assembled with it on the base. This, of course, is our original screw. We welded up the base of it, and we've shortened it just a little bit and recut our hex on the top. I may have to go back and seal around the base of this. We may get some leakage out there around that screw where it goes down through. But that will be a simple project. If we have to go back and do that, we'll just unbolt the whole assembly and figure out how we're going to seal the bottom. Okay, so that's the way that's going to look. Yeah, see, we're fluctuating between about 56 and 58 degrees. It's very slowly tuning itself into that. So we're cycling on and off fairly quickly to bring it up just incrementally. Maybe drop to 56, so we cycled on and off again. We're at 57. And we're getting short bursts. When you initially start these PIDs, they will engage the solid state relay, and that light will stay on solid until it gets close to the target temperature, and then it will start cycling quickly on and off just to very slowly bring it into that proper range. And again, this tube will be blued. See, this temperature is going to vary too. I've changed the parameters of it by adding a cold base to it. Now this base is already heating up, but the tube's still cold, so it's that's drawing the temperature out of the plate and making the PID controller think a little bit harder to get that stabilized. I won't do anything else to it. I'll just leave it sit there until it stabilizes. Yeah, the base itself is showing 116 degrees right now at that setting. The base of the casting for the Lubrisizer is showing about 108, 109, 117 on the base. Up here at the top it's still 65 degrees, so it's going to take a little bit to heat it up. Now there's a little bit of fiddling with this PID to get the proper temperature in the Lubrisizer itself for the lube and everything. Once we finally zero in where we want that target temperature to be, after it's learned, you have to do is flip off the switch and flip it back on when you want to use it and allow it time to warm up. The PID will remember those settings, and it will automatically bring it to temperature and hold it there. Now see, we're set at 60 degrees. It's cycled on right now, and now it's kicked off. It will hold that very close to that 60 degrees throughout the use of it. So for this application, these work really good. You know, building your own heated base, sourcing the parts and everything. If you go and buy a Lyman heated base, I think they're in that $60 range. I think other than my time set up on one of these for materials and everything is, well less than $50. So for that minimal expense, why, you've got a complete temperature control setup for your Lubrisizer. And these same things work well on casting pots. I'll be wiring a couple of casting pots up to PID controls. Yeah, this is about 127 degrees at the base itself. The casting is still only at 100 118 to 120, and up here at the top we're still at 65 degrees. With these infrared thermometers, it also depends on what surface you're trying to measure on. I found color on them makes a big difference. And it's just the way they reflect the signal. But we're stabilized at 60 degrees. It will do a real good job of holding it there. So anyway, we'll put the cover on, we'll tidy up the wiring a little bit, tie some of those out of the way, and we're ready to blue up our parts for this Lubrisizer and get it done and finish up this project. Well, here's all our parts out of the bluing tank. I actually videoed this as I wiped them down and took them out of the basket, which is still sitting right here, and realized that I didn't have the video going. So anyway, here's all our parts. Here's our tube blued up. This is the pressure screw, I guess you'll call it. It sets in there just like that, and depending on how well this works, I may have to upgrade this to the newer style with the O-rings. We'll see what it does. That sits on there. There's our linkage. There's one end of that hooks the one end of the linkage and goes in the base plate. This is the linkage for the other end. There's the two circlips. I'm going to replace one of those because it's sprung out of position, so I'll replace it. There's our screws for each end of the spring. There's the nuts that go on the top of our guide rods. We've got the 3 thumb screws. 2 of those go in the back of the bottom linkage spreader, I guess you call it, and then one of them goes in the bottom of the casting to lock the return to, it holds the top punch in place. That's what it is. And lock washer to go on this bolt to hold the handle on in position. The only thing I think I'm going to lack to finish up this project is I don't have a wood handle to go on here yet, and I don't know what I'm going to do exactly there. I'm probably going to look around and see if I've got a piece of exotic something around here, and I'll turn a handle for it. Now, probably the first thing we should do is install this linkage back into the casting. That way we've got better access to it before we put the tube on. We can go ahead and install this magazine tube. We're going to go ahead and red Loctite it in place. We'll clean it off with a little acetone. Because hopefully this is never coming out again. That Loctite sets up, why it won't matter. That'll never come loose. And we can probably go ahead and set this in out of the way. why that one's a little bit tight, a little bit of powder coat on there. I've already had these rods in once. Well, we'll get the bottom piece locked in place first. I believe those are all three the same. No, they're not. This one will go here. This one will go here. Set like that because this will go and that apparently will go on the front. Go. Okay. A little bit of powder coat on the inside of the threads there. There we go. We'll lock in right there. Don't quite want to sit in there. There we go. here. I may have to go back and tap that hole out, several of these holes as a matter of fact, just to make sure there's clearance in there. That will lock that die in place. And this will be the top punch. And for the handle, that sits in there. We'll put a brass washer in. Set the handle in place. The other brass washer and our lock nut. And then for our linkage, we'll have to grab a ring plier here. Now I was going to replace this one circlip. Let's see how there's no tension on it, so if it goes on, it doesn't really matter if it's oh yeah, that'll work. Okay, and this goes in. This goes to the top. Just like that. I think that may very well be backwards. This has got a little bit of a bend in it. I don't know if it was supposed to have a bend in it or not. Does that line up better? Nope, that's worse. custom cap for on top. There we go. And there's our Lubrisizer. I will figure out what set of dyes I'm going to put in that. And we'll get some lube down in it. I still got to put the cover on this side of the control box. And we still have to do a handle. But there's an old Lyman 45. And that will be a very nice addition. I'm glad that's done and pretty much back to original condition. I've got the handle for on top. I've got to clean up that ratcheting handle. But we'll pick up a couple more of those. I'm not sure what I'm going to set this up for. It'll probably be a relatively small caliber cast bullet. Like I say, I don't know exactly what yet. This could very well be a small 22 caliber bullet. I'm not sure. We'll see. But we'll get a handle done. We'll get the sight on the control box, and we'll get it set back in place. So next time you see it, why I'll have it set up. We'll have the controls running, dyes in it, and we'll size some bullets on it and see how well it works. But all indications, it's going to be nice. It's fairly smooth. It'll loosen up a little bit more. You know, in a perfect world, that return spring would probably return it all the way, but when you look at the newer Lubricizers from anybody's offerings, I don't think anybody's even putting a spring return on. So that's probably something they decided either didn't work very well or wasn't necessary, and I can tell you it's not necessary. So anyway, cool. Neat project. Thanks for watching.